Hello and welcome to The Actor and the Engineer. My name is Paul James. I am the actor.
And my name is Josh Knapp. I just ran a half marathon.
Oh, did you really?
Yeah, I did, actually.
Good for you. Wow.
Yeah.
Impressive.
I'm very tired still. It's been days, but I'm still tired.
Dude, I ran an 8K and laid on the couch for like 3 days. So
My legs, like I got cramped the last couple miles, like my thighs and stuff. And so, yeah, it's been just today. I woke up and I was like, oh, I feel normal. And it's Thursday. So it's been a long, I ran on Saturday. Steph and I ran a half marathon on Saturday, and she kicked my butt, of course, but still, I was
13 and a half miles. 13 and a half miles?
Yeah, 13.1 miles. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Dude, that's impressive and crazy and just intense. Good for you. Congratulations.
Thank you. And it was on a trail. Like, it wasn't like on a road. It was on trails. So like mountain bike trails and hiking trails and stuff. So yeah, it was pretty neat.
How much further ahead was she?
Not
Not in life
10
during
minutes.
the race. Oh, really? Did you start off the same thing?
Oh yeah. We all started off at the same time. Like, everybody started. I mean, we had masks and stuff, and like there was some kind of spacing, but really it was, once you get out there, like there were whole minutes where I, didn't see anybody. I actually fell down one time. Nobody knew. Like, I fell down, I looked around, and I was like, oh, look, okay. And I got back up and started running again. So
now more than 800 people know.
That's true.
So the mask thing, you wore them at the beginning of the race, but took them off once it started, right?
Oh yeah, like almost immediately. Once I mean, you very quickly will space out to where, and you're outside too. So I mean, the level of risk is very low. But I mean, yeah, and there's just no way to run with a full on mask on. You just can't do it. And so,
who would want to?
Oh no, yeah, it's not fun. But yeah, so it was a lot of fun. And Steph. Steph and I have been training for this, but really Steph has been training for a race that she's about to do, which is like a 18-mile swim run. You're like swimming in a river and a lake, and then you're running for a bunch of miles, and then you're swimming again. And it's just, so she is pretty amazing, but I will be there to cheer her on, and I will definitely drink beer with her when she's done, but I won't have to go through all the stuff that she went through.
Okay, so what was her time compared to your time?
It was like 2 hours and she was a little over 2 hours, and I was like 2:15. So
okay,
yeah, I mean, it wasn't too bad, but it was a very easy course compared to this course she's about to do. But yeah, it was, and it's probably like the pinnacle of my trail running career. Like, I'll probably do it again next year, but I'm not going to do anything more difficult than this, because it really tried me. But it was good though. It was good to be, outside, and Lake James is where we were, and we were, running around Lake James State Park and all these things. So it was great. But yeah, I did also watch a lot of movies too. So I mean, that was cool over the last few weeks. So yeah. How about you? What have you been doing?
Not running 13.5 miles, that's for sure. Like I said, I ran an 8K once. 8K once. And 2 days later, I felt like the Tin Man in The Wizard of Oz. It's just, yeah.
It's never the next day. It's always the day after the next day. That's when it really kind of hits. Yeah.
Well, it was in downtown Richmond where it started and ended. So I had taken the bus down there because back in the day, I took the bus everywhere in Richmond. And I remember stepping up to get onto the bus after the race was over with. And I was like, oh. And then trying to sit down again. It's crazy how your body reacts to it. So bravo, because, wow, 13.5 miles. I don't think I could walk 13.5 miles right now without difficulty. I mean, I probably could get through it. I'll tell you what, though, after the 8K, 2 days later, it took a lot of effort to try to stretch out and do yoga. But once I did, I felt like a champ. Like, once all that lactic acid was released, I was like, yes, not going to do it anytime soon. I ran 3 8Ks, actually.
Dang, that's good.
Well, not like in a row or not in the same year.
But I definitely wouldn't recommend anybody just like immediately go out and run 13.1 miles. But so Steph and I have been, working on this, and I've been building up my mileage and all that stuff. So it's definitely been a process. But yeah, so it's a lot of fun. So anyway, yeah.
As
But
for your the answer to your question, yes, I've been watching quite a few things, not necessarily movies per se. I told you, and I think I've mentioned it on the podcast. I got rid of a couple of streaming services so I could get the National Theatre's streaming
mm-hmm.
service in London, or out of London, Theater at Home, I think it's called. And it's really clever because theater and then they spell at home in between theater. It's very clever. Um, and I got it originally because of a couple of different reasons. I was telling you off podcast, and I think I've might have mentioned it on
You
some
talked about
podcast.
Looking.
Yeah,
Yeah.
right. Well, that's kind of what led me down the road. I saw this HBO show called Looking with Jonathan Groff, and I know about this show. I have known about it, about these three gay men in San Francisco. And they call it the Sex in the City for gay men. I don't necessarily mind that description, but and I enjoyed Sex in the City, so it's not a bash on that at all. It's just I wasn't expecting this show to have such an impact on me, and it really did, and it brought me joy, and it was very cathartic, and I ended up watching it almost immediately after ending the the second season. They have a movie, an hour and a half movie, because HBO canceled it after 2 seasons, so they did a little catch up and in storylines movie, which was great. And then I ended up watching it again, and I was like, okay, well, I'm good. And then I ended up watching the movie again almost immediately. Now, that's never happened to me. And the interesting thing about doing something like that is I felt like I absorbed everything I needed to absorb the first time I saw the first 2 seasons in the movie. I got it all. It had this emotional impact on me, a very strong one. And then when you watch it a second time, you wonder, the newness is off. The shine is off the coin. But I had the same emotional impact. It had the same emotional impact. And I had to actually resist the urge to watch it again. Now, I can neither confirm nor deny that I have watched some other episodes here and there, but I was introduced to an actor by the name of Russell Tovey, and he just made these choices as an actor that just broke my heart. He did a few things in the show that touched my soul. Anyway, so I tracked him, and he was in the London version of Angels in America with Andrew Garfield and Nathan Lane, which eventually came to Broadway, which eventually won Nathan Lane his umpteenth Tony and Andrew Garfield his first Tony. Russell Tovey did not make it to the American Broadway production, so I started following his career, which led me to The History Boys. Now, do you know that movie or that play?
No.
Play, I think 2006, don't quote me on that, won the Tony for best play. It introduced the world to James Corden, who now has a talk show at night. Dominic, I can't remember his name all of a sudden. As soon as you see him, you'll recognize him. Dominic, I can't think of his name. Anyway, I don't have my phone.
Dominic Cooper?
Yes, thank you. I was going to say Swain for some reason. I don't know why. Dominic Cooper.
Dominique Swain is a woman.
Oh, okay. Well, maybe that's why.
Yeah.
I don't know how I would connect those two, but whatever. And also Russell Tovey was in the original cast. And so I watched the movie, and Richard Griffiths, who is the uncle in the Harry Potter series, he won the Tony for History Boys. So that was transposed to a movie, and I saw the movie. I don't quite understand. I will say this. It was a 2 hour and 5 minute movie, and it was a 3 hour and 15-minute play. So that tells you a lot right there. They cut quite a bit. Yeah. And I didn't really connect to it. I don't really get it to a degree. But it was interesting to see all of these people's first, what launched their careers. And some actors you'll recognize, and another actress, I think her name is Frances de la Tour, I believe her name is. She plays the female giant in the Harry Potter movie Goblet of Fire of the female school that comes to visit for that competition.
I think I've seen her before. Yeah.
Yeah.
The teacher, is she like a teacher?
Yeah. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. She won the Tony. So anyway, so I watched that. And then, so I have been watching a lot of stuff from the National Theater. We'll get to more of it later. But how about you?
Man, I've gone and seen a few movies in the theater, and then I've also watched a bunch at home. And the two I've seen in the theater are Last Night in Soho. I saw that last week when it opened, which I really enjoyed, actually, even though I'm not a big horror fan. It's an Edgar Wright film, and it's very, I mean, you saw Grindhouse in the theater, right? So did you see that with Robert Rodriguez, Quentin Tarantino, the two movies together?
Not in the theaters, but I did see Last Night in Soho today.
Oh, good. Oh, great. Well, then, I mean, we could talk about it a little bit, but really, as a part of Grindhouse in the theaters, there were these interstitial trailers in between the movies, and one of them was a movie called Don't, which is a fake movie, and Edgar Wright directed this trailer for this fake movie Don't, and so you could tell that he was really excited about horror movies, kind of like 70s, uh, like period horror, and he did this kind of farcical, crazy, weird trailer with just like horror, horror based type things, but it was very lighthearted, just because that's Edgar Wright's deal. And I think last night in Soho, I mean, for me, I liked the period that he was focusing on. I loved the music. He's always great with music, but and then I thought that it was cool how he was able to kind of harken back to some of the, like, you don't necessarily get like Suspiria vibes, but you do get the kind of giallo horror. There's some like bloody parts in the movie, and there are parts that you could consider scary, but I never felt overwhelmed by the stakes of the film, even though, I mean, the stakes for the character are very serious, but it just felt, I don't know, it had a lot of heavy hitters in there too. It's got Diana Rigg, Terrence Stamp on top of Anya Taylor-Joy and Thomasin McKenzie. So yeah, and then there's a couple other uh, actors in there too. But yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed it, and the music was spot on, and just the way that he does sound design and sound editing, like I just will never not notice that anymore. Like, and it makes other movies that don't take advantage of that. I mean, Baby Driver was like to 1,000 degrees, and this is like maybe to whatever, 500 degrees or 500%, whereas Baby Driver was 1,000%. But yeah, I noticed a lot of little things, especially with sound design in Last Night in Soho, that really paid off for me. So I really enjoyed that. So I mean, your initial reactions for Last Night in Soho? What did you think?
I was captivated for 2 hours and 5 minutes, or however long it was. I
Mm-hmm.
enjoy Thomasin McKenzie. I have been watching her for a while now. Leave No Trace. She stuck out in
Yes.
my mind, and then Jojo Rabbit. She is one to watch. I'm glad. It's nice to see her in her starring role. I'm not surprised she could handle it. Anya Taylor Joy is, of course, just everywhere right now, and that's good for us. She is interesting to me as an actress. She has this, and I think we were talking about it with Queen's Gambit, where she makes these choices, and I think only she could make the choice and it would work. There's an awkwardness to her, and she has almost this uncomfortable physicality. What's the word I'm looking for?
Physicality.
Physicality. Thank you. I tried to put two of those words together, and I should start my own dictionary, I swear. But in a way, it works in this most unusual way. But she sticks out to me. She just absorbs the light, and you just have to watch her. She's drop dead gorgeous, no doubt
Yeah.
about it. They both are very beautiful women,
Mm-hmm.
but she's just got this kind of, and I think she tapped into it, or they tapped into it for the Queen's Gambit. But she's going to have some featured role somewhere where she exhibits this quirkiness, because she has a quirkiness about her,
Well,
and she's very purposeful in the way that she moves in this film. And I think that's, to some people it might be mechanical and calculated. To me, it works perfectly for the actress, or for the character, because when the character shows up, you have to believe she believes who she is.
yeah.
And she can do what she's thinking she can do
Well,
without ever saying a word.
yeah, she believes who she will be. Like, she's
Yes.
already that person, and she wants everybody to know it. But I think that for me, Anya Taylor-Joy, the last few roles that I've seen her in, she has like an infinite confidence. Like, her
Yes.
characters have an infinite confidence, and we believe in that wholly. I mean, she was obviously in The Witch, and that was a totally different character. And she's been, I mean, we've seen her in other films. She was in Split. She's been in a couple other movies, where she's not necessarily been like top bill or whatever. But I think, yeah, with Queen's Gambit, with this movie, and you're right, there are certain scenes where she is mechanical, but like the scene where she's doing the dancing on stage with all the other women, that it is mechanical, and it's supposed to be mechanical. You're supposed to see it from her point of view. I mean, I'm doing all of these things because I've been told to do this because this is what I'm supposed to do, and we don't have to get too far into it, but really it's a very purposeful, it's a character moment for her, and it works. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I think all of the performances were great. Did you know this was Diana Rigg's last film?
Because she passed away?
I believe she passed away. Uh-oh.
That's sad.
Yeah.
No, I didn't know that. And I didn't realize who she was until
she did.
I know who she is.
September 10th, 2020. So yeah.
Well, good, because she's scary.
The other problem is, yeah, no, I'm not going to get into it, but yes, Diana Rigg's in the film. So yeah, and then it's great to see Terrence Stamp too. I recently watched The Hit, which is from like the early 80s, and I've seen The Limey recently too, and so I mean, I don't have a lot of I'm not like deep into Terrence Stamp filmography, but I mean, from only knowing him from being Zod in Superman, like it's like he does a lot in all these other movies.
Does. Yeah.
So
well,
yeah.
See, I know him as Zod and from Priscilla, Queen of the Desert, that Australian film that he did.
Oh, wait, hold on. Who was in that? Weren't there a bunch of people in that movie?
Yeah.
It was like
Agent
Hugo
Smith.
Weaving? Yeah,
yes,
yeah.
And Memento.
Guy Pearce.
Yes.
Huh.
The three leads. And they
Wow.
sort of ushered in the we're going to be okay now with drag queens phase that we're going through. This was 20 some odd years ago at this point. And then Tu Wong Fu with Patrick Swayze spawned off of that, I believe.
Yeah.
But yeah, so that's where I know Terrence Stamp from. Zod and drag queen. So,
wow.
And I'm good with that. That like pretty much wraps it up for me about
Talk about
how talented
ends of a
he
spectrum.
is. Yeah,
I mean, like
brilliant,
super alpha male,
Priscilla.
and I don't know what his character is in Priscilla, but I mean, if he's a drag queen, I mean,
well, he's transgendered, and
okay.
Yeah, I don't want to say what I think the term is because I don't want to get it wrong, but
Sure.
I believe it would be transgendered at this point in our society, which I think she's transitioned. Let's put it that way.
Oh, okay. All right.
Yeah.
Well, there you go.
So I'm very polite and aware and respectful of pronouns. So I don't want somebody to like get it wrong. Anyway, let's go back to Last Night in Soho really quick. I want to tap into a few things that you talked about. So yes, the music's amazing. The design of the 1960s is amazing. It's kind of a hard movie to follow, so it must have been a hard movie to put together. Not hard, but like it can get complicated. I didn't have a hard time. I'm just saying
a hard time. Yeah. Do you think other people might have? Okay. All right.
People remember Little Women? They can't understand the timelines. So I could see how somebody might have a little bit of difficulty. Was it scary to me? No, but I think the third act needs to happen quicker and faster and ramp up quicker and faster. And it needs to be, you need to know you're in the middle of a scary movie before they let you know you're in the middle of a scary movie. That said, there are some extremely interesting, I loved what he did with the camera, the cinematography and the camera with all of that kind of 1960s psychedelic mirrored ball looking stuff in the one scene, the dance scene, and the kaleidoscope looking stuff. I loved all that. But did you hear in the beginning of the film when she first of all, anybody who rents a room over top of anything else with a blinking red light out of it just needs to be warned to watch movies more often because every single time you're in one of those rooms, something does not go right. But did you notice in the beginning when she first turns the light off and the red light starts to blink, there's also a sound effect that's going with doom, doom, doom. And I was like, wait. And it makes you key into it. Now,
it's
maybe
rhythmic.
because maybe because I know you, it stuck out more, and maybe I'm listening to things differently, but I thought, wow, but that rhythmic pulse happens throughout the movie in different places, and he hooks up the pacing of the actual scene to whatever the rhythm of the song or soundtrack or what's the word I'm looking for? Score.
The score.
Yeah. And so to me, that was amazing because it needs to pulsate, and it is a bait and switch movie. And I was like, wait, oh, and no spoilers. Well, maybe a little spoiler. There is a scene in the beginning of the film, and it's pretty much a cliche scene at this point in movie going history, where somebody's running across the street, they're not looking, and a car almost hits them.
Yeah.
Okay. I was like, wait a second, that's important. But I didn't know why, and it doesn't pan out the way I expected it to. Because I thought, okay, well, we just saw the way that the third act is going to go for her. That's what I thought. Yeah. Mm-hmm. But I was wrong. But it is a bait and switch movie, and I do enjoy that. So but the production design is great, everything. So
the cool thing about that is that what you're talking about, we're not going to give any spoilers, but what you're talking about, really, we're talking about film vocabulary. And you got more out of the film because you understand film vocabulary. And Edgar Wright decided to work within that film vocabulary to use a scenario and to kind of like, whether it's the rule of threes or whether it's how a shot is framed, he's choosing to play into those tropes or those conventions, because in some ways you could say like, oh, well, that's not innovative. You know, everybody knows rule of threes, or everybody knows this particular shot convention, or, you know, somebody opens up the door for the medicine cabinet, and then when they close it, there's a bad guy behind it. Like, people know that. But the reason why that works is because everybody's who's watching, who's kind of keyed into something like that, is anticipating that. And really, the anticipation is actually more enjoyable than the payoff most of the time. So that whole time that you're anticipating the other shoe to drop, you're getting that, you know, that charge out of it, and it's engaging you in the film. So it's genius. I mean, I totally respect movies that go against the grain, and I'm here for them. And I will watch a movie that is whatever considered slow or that is considered challenging. We're about to talk about one of them, and I'm ready to dig into it. But at the same time, I still get a lot out of movies that do take particular tropes or particular formulas. And we just talked about the Bond movie recently. I mean, like, it's trying to take formulas and play off of those, and that stuff really, I mean, it gets me going, because I love to like anticipate something, expect it, and then get that fulfilled. I love that. You know, I also love to get surprised. But in fact, this is a good segue. I saw Titon, which is a French movie. Yeah. And I don't know, man. Like, I was about 30 minutes into the movie, and I was like, I probably shouldn't be seeing this. Like, I was like, somebody should take me away from this movie, because it was a challenging movie. It went places I didn't know movies could go. And it started off as a particular movie, and I thought I had it figured out. And then it went into a totally different movie, maybe like a third of the way through. It's just, it starts off as one thing and then completely morphs into another thing. And it's Julia Ducournau. She's a French filmmaker, and she made a movie, Raw, a few years ago, 2017, which I saw that movie too. This is Raw. Raw is a veterinarian student in her first year in veterinary school, and she is vegan, or at least vegetarian. She doesn't eat meat. And as a part of their hazing ritual, all of the veterinary students have to take a bite out of a liver, like a raw liver. And so she does this along with all the other students, because she, doesn't want to, she wants to fit in or whatever. And she doesn't want to challenge that. And she's like, okay, I'll be a part of it. Whatever. No big deal. Just one bite. And then she ends up gaining this need for raw flesh. and not only raw cow flesh, but raw human flesh. And it goes in different directions. There's different sexuality, things that happen as far as like her desires, different desires that are awoken in her, and it goes places. But this movie, Teton, it goes more places that you would not expect. I mean, I don't even know how to like describe it or recommend it to people, because I mean, Julia Ducournau knows how to make a film. She knows how to challenge her audience, and she has a good understanding of that film vocabulary that we're talking about, but she also really likes to kind of needle the audience. And much like Michael Haneke, who did Funny Games twice and a couple other films, but he's kind of, at least most people in the United States kind of know him more for Funny Games, I guess, where it's very challenging to the audience. And this movie is, I think, very challenging to the audience. And it really forces you to it talks about family. It talks about our relationship to machines, I guess. So, I mean, I don't even know, like, do you even want to know about this movie, or what have you heard about this movie?
I haven't heard anything, and we do have a listener who mentioned it in a comment on YouTube. I can't remember his name right now. I can't remember anybody's name tonight.
Masamunsa, I think.
Yeah. Oh, yes. They asked us if we had seen it, and you had mentioned that it won the Cannes Film Festival award, and I had mentioned, no, I haven't seen it. Is it good? And then we haven't heard back from them. So I don't know if it has something to do with the film. People are busy. It's a crazy time in this world. Yes, I'm interested in it, and I know nothing about it, but now you've made me a little...
You need to be careful. It's
really,
I mean, I don't know. Like I'm able to kind of shut down emotionally, and I can kind of, get through stuff, but I don't know. I mean,
I just would like to state for the record that you actually said that on the podcast. So when I say that you're emotionally shut down about something, you can say, no.
I can shut down emotionally. I don't always shut down emotionally.
Do you now do you have an automatic pilot that just goes off and you shut it down, or do you go, okay, this movie is starting to be something I wasn't expecting, and shut down, or did you just stand on the outside of it? Like, are you worried for me because I'm so emotional?
For me, I got to a certain point in the film and I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to be getting from this movie. And then by the time the film ended, I was like, okay, I can maybe try to pull something out of it. And I think I can. I think I can pull something out of it. But I've got to work really hard. Like, it's not a movie that spoon feeds its themes to you. And it's not a movie that, lionizes the main character. And it's also... It's just, I mean, the main character is an atrocious human being pretty early on. And I mean, not to say that they're not spurned into doing what they do by external forces, but at the same time, they're not a good person. But by the end of the film, you feel so much sadness and emotion and just pain for this person that's an absolute horrible person. It's just like the movie puts you in a really tough position. There are no white hats and black hats in this movie. Like, there's a bunch of bad people and a bunch of people who are just they've got their emotions in the wrong place, or they're dealing with their emotions in an unhealthy way. And it's just thrown at you. And you're just like, these are people. Like, go, you figure it out. Like, I don't know. Like, it's kind of I don't know. I mean, it's kind of...
Where did you see it at?
I saw it at Alamo.
Oh, okay. Because I was looking it up online. It doesn't look like it's
probably
anywhere.
out. It's probably out of theaters now. It was only, I saw it the last night that it was showing. I mean, it was pretty, late in the... I mean, I think it ran for like a week, probably because in the United States, I'm sure it was just not a big draw for people. But I don't know. I mean, I'm sure you can watch it when it's streaming, but it was challenging. It's the toughest movie I've seen in a long time. I mean, yeah. I mean, A Clockwork Orange was easy compared to this. Just, yeah. So, all right. Well, if that's not mysterious enough, I didn't even tell you what it was about because
No,
it doesn't matter.
I'm glad
It doesn't
that, yeah,
matter
I'm
what
glad
it's
that you
about.
don't. And also, yeah, on IMDb it says add to watch list, which means it's not streaming and or it's left the theaters. So
Yeah.
eventually
There you go.
it'll come on somewhere.
Also, I mean, I think I know why it won the Palme d'Or because it is a French movie and it's a very it's a very like in your face movie, and I think that's probably why the people went for it. But I don't even know who votes for, because I think Spike Lee was on the jury and Sharon Stone I think was on the jury. So like I mean, I don't know. Are they the only ones that vote for the Palme d'Or? I'm not sure, or is it like a bunch of people that vote for it? I don't know. But either way, yeah, I don't know. I probably would have been fine never seeing the movie, but I I I want to know what her next movie is going to be. Like that's what I am interested to see what she's going to do next. And I don't think she'll ever like and she's not going to do the Eternals 2. So, I mean, that ship is probably sailed. But,
Yeah.
people might have said I mean, they might have said that Kate Shortland was never going to do a Marvel movie or that Chloe Zhao was never going to do a Marvel movie. So, I mean, anything can happen. But I think that Julia Ducournau is more interested in needling people than, actually making something that's a tentpole movie.
Well, you made me interested in seeing it. You haven't deterred me from it, so we'll see what happens. And I'm sure I'll discover it organically and then be halfway through it and be like, oh, wait, is this what he was talking about? So it'll be interesting.
Yeah, so I also I've watched a bunch of old movies. In fact, on Halloween, do you watch anything special on Halloween? Do you watch Halloween on Halloween?
No, I watched the American Horror Story from season 1, the Halloween episode, which is part 1 and part 2. That's what I watch.
Very cool. This year, Steph and I watched Army of Darkness because I hadn't seen it in a long time. And Steph was like, we went through the whole she's like, I want to watch something scary. And I was like, okay. And then she's like, well, not too scary. I was like, oh, great. Okay. Well, now we're like down to, very few movies. And Army of Darkness is like, yeah, I know. Army of Darkness is kind of like, it's so cheeky that it's not scary. Like there's so much blood that it's not realistic. There's skeletons fighting people, so it's just a whole nother thing. But yeah, it's a well done movie, and it's very you can see all the strings of that movie, and you can tell that Sam Raimi and Bruce Campbell are just having the times of their lives, and they know that they're making a B movie, and they're really into it. And that's what I loved about it. It knows exactly what it is. It's not a movie that's trying to be something else.
Is that the one where he has to get the book?
He goes back in time. So at the end of Evil Dead 2, he goes into that wormhole and goes back in time, and he's just dropped in it's the Middle Ages. And so he's at a castle, and there's these guys that are fighting between each other, but then he ends up having to go get the Necronomicon,
right?
And then he does it wrong, and then the evil or all the dead people come out and fight him, and and then there's Evil Ash that ends up coming, and I mean it's
Now, is that the one where he says first you wanted to kill me, now you want to kiss me? Blow. Is that does he say it to
those? He's like give me some sugar baby. He's got that one to the woman, and he's I mean it's just there's so many just so cheesy lines. They are so cheesy. I mean, talks about his boomstick, everybody sees the shotgun, and I mean it's just they don't understand it.
Yeah.
I mean it's funny. But yeah, Steph was just like, this is dumb. And I was like, yeah, you're right. It is dumb, but it's fun though. So yeah.
That's the way it's supposed to be.
Yep. I also, I'm a big Criterion collection person. So I try to buy some of the Criterion movies especially the ones that because available on Criterion channel. But so there's a half off sale now. And so I've bought 4 different movies. Because they're a lot cheaper than they normally are. And normally they're insanely expensive. But so I bought Akira Kurosawa's High and Low. Have you ever seen that one?
No.
It's a non-samurai Akira Kurosawa movie. So I mean, he did make other movies that were not samurai based. But it's a really really good movie, and it's a very it's a thriller, and it's fairly long. It's like 2.5 hours long, but it's about a child who gets abducted, and the police help this guy he literally lives on a house above all of these other houses, and the police come and try to help him get his kid back. And you start to see it's very, parasite-y in that there's a lot of class dialogue going on between, like, what the police will do for a person of this particular stature versus the person who kidnapped the child, and all this stuff, and just how they deal with kidnapping, and how the police deal with the situation. And yeah, and it's really tense too. I mean, it's like Ransom before Ransom, but good, the Mel Gibson movie. And so, yeah, that's a great movie. Blood Simple, I finally bought that on Blu-ray. I think that's the last Coen Brothers movie that I have yet to own. I bought Roma, even though that's on Netflix, there's a bunch of like special features that are only available on the Criterion movie. So I bought Alfonso Cuarón's Roma, and then I also bought a Cary Grant movie, The Awful Truth. Have you seen this one? It's Cary Grant, Irene Dunn, and this was like the first screwball comedy. It was like 1937 when it came out. So this is pre His Girl Friday, pre Bringing Up Baby, which we've talked about on the podcast before. I mean, this is, it is kind of like the beginnings of Cary Grant as a leading man screwball comedy lead. So yeah, that's a good, I just watched that one last night. But there are some tough parts in that. Like, there are some parts that do not age well. It's a husband and wife. He plays the husband, Irene Dunn plays the wife, and they have essentially an open marriage, and they're just trying to make sure people don't know that they have an open marriage. But then when people start to kind of try to find out, then they get like really mad at each other and like, fine, we'll divorce. And then of course it goes on from there. This is 1937, so divorce in 1937, a little bit different than divorce nowadays. But there's a lot of other things that do not age well. Like close to the beginning of the movie, you can see that they have a maid. Well, their maid is black and they are white. All their friends are white, and their maid has a very caricatured voice, and it's very similar to the maid in the maids in Gone with the Wind. I mean, and so it's a little it's a little cringy when it comes to that. It's just, I guess that was the norm. I don't know for how movies were portraying white people and black people back then. And it's just rough to look at that and be like, that may have been the only role available for a black person back then. And so I know that things aren't perfect nowadays, but I hope that, I know that we're getting better at least. So, but yeah, I don't know. For me, I look at a movie like that and I take it where it's at, and I don't, it's hard not to look at it from 2021 eyes, but at the same time, like it's hard to completely condemn a whole film. Like, I don't know, maybe I'll get your opinion on this. Like, do you think that if there's a problematic part to a movie that you should just like write off that movie completely? Or, I mean, I think that you'd be losing a lot of history and not recognizing the strides that we've made from then to now.
No, I agree with you. No, I don't think you should write something off because of the history. What would concern me is if you didn't mention that it was cringy and you'd said, that's the way it should be. That's what's wrong with this, like that's the way it should be. That's what's wrong with 2021. That would concern me. The fact that it rings uncomfortable and stereotypically wrong and demeaning, and knowing the knowledge you have for film and the love you have for film, I would listen to your opinion about it, especially if I would listen to your opinion about it, even if you were like, that's the best film ever, and that's the way it should be. Then I would have a long talk with you afterwards and be like, I'm concerned. But you're right. I think we do need to recognize that we're recognizing those things are not cool, and that people keep saying looking at things through 2021 eyes, which is crazy because they're talking about something from 2017, which was less than 4 years ago. So, it's not that long ago. So I think we need, you can't, if you erase everything, then you can't learn from it. But you need to make sure that people know that that's not cool and that's cringy and that's gross and people didn't talk like that, and you're sensitive to the fact that that's probably the only part that he or she could get, and that they had to make a living like everybody else. That's the filmmaker and the writers and the society at the time's fault, not theirs.
Mhm.
And we know now by a lot of history being told that people were pressured into talking more caricatured than they were, and that they were doing less things that were about being a human being and more about a stereotype, and that's what people were comfortable with. Now, like I said, if they showed that movie in 2021, everybody's like, yeah, that was great, I don't have a problem with any of it, then there would be a problem. But I don't think you can eradicate or erase history, but you have to teach history, or you have to allow people to watch history and then say, that's uncool. How did you feel about it? And this is why it was uncool. And that's why we can't do that ever again, because it's just, people are human, and human beings have the right to be heard and their voices be heard. And, it's not even close nowadays. There's a lot of problems nowadays, no doubt about it. But the fact that they're being reflected so quick in our society is not necessarily a problem, in my opinion. I think it's good that people are going, oh, that made me feel uncomfortable. It's when they twist it back around and use it as a thing for censorship. I'm not going to get into it, but yeah. So I think it would be wrong to not. The ultimate way to answer this is, am I not going to watch a Woody Allen movie now? Maybe not his newer stuff, but that really doesn't have anything to do with his issues, the issues. It has to do with, I've been less and less impressed by his films. So I don't know. I haven't seen anything he's made in the last 2 or 3 years. I don't know. I can't speak on that. But because of his history and because of the history, do I now not watch Hannah and her sisters, which I love? And now do I not watch Radio Days, which I love? No. Just like I would watch a movie even with somebody who has a political different view than me. They're not putting their political view on stage. They're putting a movie and telling a story and acting a certain character. So that might be controversial to some people to say that, but
yeah,
I went and saw the God of Carnage movie, or Carnage was what it was called. It was called God of Carnage when it was on Broadway, and Jodie Foster,
Roman Polanski is what you're talking about, right?
Roman Polanski, right? But I'm sorry,
Christoph Waltz.
Thank you, Christoph.
John C. Reilly.
Oh, let me try. Kate Winslet. Let me try. I know these people's names. And Jodie Foster, 4 of the biggest names in Hollywood history. And they went over to another country to make that movie with Roman Polanski. So it never dawned on me when I was watching it. Now I have a different sensibility about that subject. But his history is different, in my opinion, than most. He was convicted. So do I want to support that? Not anymore. I don't. But I did see that movie in the theater. So, and that was way past the time of knowing that. And I saw The Pianist in the theater and thought it was one of the best films of the year. And I was happy that Adrian Brody won, and I wasn't surprised he won. And he won that way after having to leave the country. So it's problematic, but just like watching, that would be like saying, you won't watch a movie that has a same-sex interaction in it because you don't believe that is a proper way to be. I would never do that. And I wouldn't do it about a black and a white person kissing or making love or whatever. I wouldn't 86 a whole idea of a film because there's something in it that might make me feel uncomfortable. As I wouldn't want somebody to do that because there were 2 guys kissing in the film. So Wow, did
Well,
I get
yeah,
out
I
of
mean,
it?
no. Well, I don't know, but at the same time, like I don't have a problem. I mean, I don't have a problem with other people not watching the movies that I want to watch because whatever it makes them uncomfortable. Or I guess the big problem would be is if they actively engage in trying to prevent anyone from seeing those movies, because that is part of a campaign to silence voices, and to silence voices that don't align with their ideology. And we are not at the point in our country that 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 only certain voices should be heard. And when we get to that point, then would be a sad day. And I think that there's so many voices that have been allowed to be heard, and that's made our country better. Whew, man, I'm getting too serious here. Okay, that's made our country better, and so I don't want there to be some sort of like just marshaling of singular thought and eschewing of all other thought. So I'm very sensitive about that too. So I mean, I don't. I want to watch my movies. Everybody else can watch their movies, but I want to be able to buy the ticket to Teton and walk out 30 minutes later when I'm like, I can't do it. But I don't want to tell Julia Ducournau that she cannot make a car sex movie. So you know what? That's where I'm at. So
Wait, it's a car sex movie? Oh, you should have said that in the beginning. I'm in. Now I have no idea what that means. Well, let me just say this one
it
last
doesn't matter.
thing.
Whatever you're thinking right now, it's not what you think. So
I went immediately to
weirder.
that Cronenberg film Crash.
Yes.
It's
weirder than Crash. It's totally weirder than Crash. It's so much weirder than Crash.
Okay, good to know. Let me just say one last thing about what we were talking about. How are you supposed to allow a person to understand what's stereotypical and prejudiced and discrimination and horrible treating of human beings because of the color of their skin if you don't allow people to see the examples of how we did it in the past?
Yeah.
How are you? Yeah. The only obligation I would have is to, and you're right, I don't think you should censor any of that, but I also don't want to be censored when I'm telling somebody I think that's racist and stereotypical. From my point of view, that's it. Right. So how are you going to know the difference? So if we erase or eradicate, and I get it. It's the pendulum has swung far too. We've had this discussion many times. It has swung far to one side. And what it needs to do is start swinging back and allowing things. You cannot say to people, no, don't watch it because it's a bad thing, because it's discriminatory or it's racist. Yeah. They have to learn for themselves how they feel about something. And then if they think it's fine, it isn't racist, then you just eliminate that person from your life if you don't agree with them. You cannot tell me what I can and cannot watch because I don't want to tell you what you can and cannot watch. That's a simple, basic thing. And we're trying. Yeah. It's a balance thing. We're trying. If it wasn't for 400 some odd years of history swinging one way, maybe it would be not so uncomfortable to stop it swinging that way.
Yeah, it's hard. Yeah, because we're trying to go the whole other way in less than 400 years. Yeah,
in less than 20.
There you go. Okay, so why is Mission Impossible Rogue Nation maybe the best Mission Impossible movie? I think Mission Impossible 3 is actually the best, but Rogue Nation's really good. We just rewatched it and it's so good. Like, it's better than some of the Daniel Craig Bond movies. Yeah, I'm kind of amazed that, like, the reason why we watched it, or the reason why I wanted to watch it, is because of Rebecca Ferguson. I just saw Dune twice, and I was like, man, she's not, like, I don't know of her in a bunch of other things. And so, we have Rogue Nation, and so we threw it on, and it's great. It's a good, like, it's a James Bond movie where, like, there's no character development. It's like Ethan Hunt is already Ethan Hunt, and he just is Ethan Hunt the whole movie. And then you add in Rebecca Ferguson, and the worst part of it is Jeremy Renner, because he's not doing anything. I really feel bad for him because he was supposed to be the new Ethan Hunt, and then Tom Cruise was like, "But I'm
Nope.
Ethan Hunt."
Right.
Nobody else gets to be Ethan Hunt. I want to jump out of the plane in Mission Impossible Fallout. So yeah, I don't know. I was really impressed with Rogue Nation. It's been a while since I saw it, but it's a great movie. I don't know.
All right. So forgive me and don't use this against me, but is Rogue Nation the one with the suction cup on the outside of the building? Okay.
That's Ghost Protocol. Yeah.
You said no. You slapped your finger at me.
Oh,
no.
wow.
Okay. So obviously I know the first one, and the second one is John Woo, right? With the big train and helicopter sequence, right?
That's the first one. At the end,
what's the
helicopter and train? John Woo has the motorcycles at the end, and then they fight on the beach, and then it's all like
spinning
slow
around
motion
and almost going over the edge. Okay.
That's
so
right.
what's the third one?
Oh, the third one's Philip Seymour Hoffman. It's J.J. Abrams' first. It's J.J. Abrams' first feature film. It is.
So wait a second.
Yeah.
Philip Seymour Hoffman is the bad guy in Mission Impossible and not a James Bond.
That's right.
Ooh.
Yeah, they messed that one up, didn't they?
Well, I've admitted to this before. Those movies just don't stick. I enjoy when I'm watching it. I have the best time. It reminds me when I was a kid and I wasn't thinking about movies. I just went to the movies. And we talked about this before. I had to train myself to remember that there's actually a story being told, and to remember what the story was and connect it. I had to literally work at it. So for what? Okay, so is Philip Seymour Hoffman. Then where is Ghost Protocol fall in?
It's 4.
Okay, it's 4. Then what's the big stunt in Ghost Protocol? The
big stunt in Ghost Protocol is the suction cups on the Burj Khalifa.
Oh, I thought you just said that wasn't.
No, that's 4. I'm talking about 5. I'm talking about Rogue Nation. So it's got Rebecca Ferguson. There's a big opera scene in the middle of it where they make a gun out of a bass flute and try to assassinate the premier of Austria, or whatever he is, the king of Austria. I don't know what he is.
Part of the gun is on her leg and she pulls it out.
Oh, yeah. She puts her leg up in an amazing dress that is pretty
for whatever
awesome.
Reason. I don't know why that stuck, but that makes me question a lot of things in my life. But yes, I remember that.
Why would I notice that? I don't know. But yeah, so she puts her leg up. I noticed that. That's true. She puts her leg up and then uses that to steady her arm while she wants to fire.
Yes.
But anyway, yes. So that's one big scene. There's a couple of really big scenes in the film. There's some motorcycle chases and all kinds of stuff. It's just there. And then the one big stunt is he goes underwater for like 5 minutes. Tom Cruise is like underwater for real for like a 2-minute unbroken take or something. So yeah, I know he's crazy, but yeah, I mean, I don't know. It does exactly what it's supposed to do and nothing more. And it's a really fun, I mean, yeah, it's a really fun James Bond movie just without James Bond. So I don't know. I liked it.
Well, you've been seeing all this highbrow stuff, and then you talk about Mission Impossible. So I feel a little bit better because the movies I've watched have been, they're certainly not winning Cannes Film Festival awards. Not that, that makes any big difference. But so I have been a little obsessed with the new Suicide Squad movie.
Oh, yeah.
I've seen it The Suicide Squad. I think it's well done. I think it's unapologetically a comic book movie, and I think they got it right. And have you seen it?
Oh yeah, we saw it opening weekend or whatever, and we saw it on HBO Max. But I mean, yeah, we saw it like first night. Yeah. Oh yeah, we were there.
I just think it's well done. I just think the humor's in its right place, the action's in its right place, and when you have somebody like Polka Dot Man, and you're thinking that is the most ridiculous thing I've ever seen, and he becomes the most endearing, cool character.
He's such a sympathetic character. I mean,
he really
you really feel sorry for him. Oh my gosh,
you really do. And I can't think Idris Elba is good. His costume is good. There's just Peacemaker is great.
John Cena knows exactly what he is. Like, that's the thing is I know John Cena kind of plays the same character in a lot of these movies. Like he plays that in, have you seen Blockers where he's a dad?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's pretty funny. But He is that guy. Like, he's like, I know I'm too big. Like, I'm too big for my body. Like, my body shouldn't be this big. I'm goofy. Like, that is his dude. That's his thing, I guess. But I don't know. I mean, yeah, it works. All those characters work. I mean, I didn't know how they were going to do the rat catcher. What is her name? What's her name?
Oh yeah.
But
Yeah.
either way, I didn't know how they were going to do that. They did enough CGI to make it make sense, but not too much to make it weird or just like out of place. So yeah, I don't know. All the characters, it was a lot of fun. I like the bait and switch. Speaking of bait and switches,
And Starro has been a character that I cannot not remember. It's one of the first comic books I ever had. And usually it's a Justice League fighting Starro, and they did it right. And I was like, how are they going to get this right? And then I saw a picture of what Starro looked like, and I was like, yeah, that's exactly what it looks like in the comic books. How are they going to do all the other stuff? And they did it. And I don't think it takes itself too seriously, which I don't think it should. But at the same time, it understands its tone. It understands its storytelling. It understands how the Suicide Squad should work. Everybody has a purpose, and the purpose is associated with their power, to the point where the beginning of the film, bait and switch, right? It's one thing, and then it's a whole nother thing, and you wait a second, did they just do that? Yep, they did. And you just go, okay. And the way that they do that is clever. And then you go, oh, that's why there's this many people in this movie. At first you're like, how are they going to do all of this? Is there going to be a back history? What is this? And I love the fact that they don't stray away from the way that the costumes look in the comic book. Changes, yes, but not really. And that's the greatest thing, because it proves that when you are unapologetically who you are, meaning in a comic book movie, stop trying to make it make sense in reality. It's not reality. It's a comic book movie. These costumes are the reason why we are attracted to these characters. So let's see them. Don't change it to black latex or whatever they do in the first X-Men movie. You know, let's see the costumes. I want to see, and I don't know, honestly, I don't know if Marvel could have gotten away with that much of a on the nose representation of their costumes. So it felt like that's the movie that finally readjusted the DC universe back to where it needs to go. And I think from this point on, it's going to be okay, because there's been just a lot of pressure to catch up with Marvel, and that's a waste of time. Yeah, it's a waste of time. But also,
Marvel's written themselves into a corner. They are now stuck in this Marvel Cinematic Universe. I think that what they're going to try to do with the Multiverse of Madness, with the Doctor Strange, and even starting with the new Spider-Man movie, is they're going to try to break out of that and be like, yeah, we've got this serious-ish MCU like universe, Marvel Cinematic Universe, but then we want to have all of these other spin-offs. We want to have the crazy stuff. Like they probably want to do more like on the nose Suicide Squad type stuff, where it's just like outlandish and unapologetic and extreme and crazy latex and all that stuff, and make it work. But it's just not going to work in the MCU. It can't.
Right. No.
And so I think that's what this Multiverse of Madness thing is. It's like, well, that's Earth 401 or whatever the heck it's called. And then like, this is Earth 362. And everybody, yeah, exactly. And everybody wears latex in this one. So great. But yeah, they're just trying to like spin it out and make it make sense. But yeah, they've definitely like curated this form, and they're kind of stuck. So I haven't seen Eternals yet, but I've heard rumblings that maybe it's not what some of the other MCU movies have been. So I don't know. I don't know if people's patience is waning, but we'll see. I mean, we'll see what it does at the box office, and we'll see how it goes once it comes on streaming and stuff. So, or if people embrace it, or if people are just kind of like moving on to the next thing. I don't know. So like I had something that I was going to recommend that you watch that I don't think you've watched. And so think about a recommendation for me to watch that you don't think that I watched. I'm going to recommend that you watch a Netflix show called Made. This is a show that I could not get through the first episode of. Justin Arner, actually, who was just on our podcast, recommended it to me and Steph. And it is super stressful. It was super stressful for us. But I think that it is so emotional that I think you would really hook into it. It stars Margaret Qualley and her mom, Andie MacDowell. Andie MacDowell plays her mom in the film, and Margaret Qualley is mother of a single child, and she is separating from her husband because he's been abusive adjacent. He's very angry. He's never, at least in the first half of the first episode that I saw, she says that he's never hit her, but he's been very violent around her and around her child. And so she takes her child away from him. And the show, at least the part of the show that we watched, is about her trying to kind of like integrate into the social service system and figure out like how she can get support from, whether it's whether a place to stay. She essentially like needs a place to stay with her and her kid. And then it comes down to where she needs a job. So she finds a job as a maid, as a housemaid. And then there was a scene that was so stressful in the first episode that I looked over at Steph and I was like, my body chemistry has changed. Like I am feeling completely stressed. Like, and this is like, I've already done a whole day of work and we just ate dinner and I'm just like, why am I so stressed right now? I do not want to feel stressed. So we stopped it. And she was feeling the same way. She was like, yeah, I can't handle this. So, yeah, it was,
And yet you were recommending this to me.
for you, because I think that it's so well acted. Margaret Qualley is amazing. Andie MacDowell plays a more manic person, very artistic manic person. And
I had no idea they were mother and daughter.
yeah.
And it totally went ding, ding, ding. Of course they are.
Yep. So
wow,
yeah,
there's some talent in that bloodline.
Whew. I don't know if they've ever worked together, but it works well in this show, at least the first half of the first episode that I saw.
So like maid as in housekeeper.
MAID. Yep.
Okay. Well, I mean, why not right off the bat? If you ever get a streaming service for the National Theater, there's a ton of things on that. But if you want to, it'd be interesting to see. I'm not necessarily recommending that you sit down with your wife to watch it, but it would be interesting to see what you thought about Looking.
Okay.
I think the first episode's a little tough, meaning, because we only see certain images on screen. And then when we see different images that we know exist in real life, it takes a little while to get adjusted to it. It's interesting because I'm wondering if this was a Sex in the City type of thing. I was trying to think back. Other than my mother, I never said my mother was watching it on Sex in the City on TBS, right? So it's edited, the language is gone, the situations are not what they are on the show. It's not the same show. And she was like, I heard this was from HBO. I'm going to watch it on HBO. And I was like, Mom, you might, but it is graphic in nature to somebody like my mother. And I'm wondering if I am describing Looking as graphic in nature because people are not used to same-sex couples on screen like they are used to heterosexual couples on screen. And would I describe it as graphic if that was just the norm, finger quotes? For you, I don't have to describe it that way because I know your taste in movies, and I know some of the movies that you've seen are definitely graphic in nature.
Yeah.
Not necessarily sexually or sexuality wise, but I know your heart and you're open-minded to everything that has quality behind it. Other than that, I've never heard you say, I'm not going to watch that because of whatever, I mean, you saw me make out with a guy on stage. So,
that's true.
And it was hot. It was totally hot. Anyway, so I wouldn't recommend it for you to sit down with Steph. But then again, I'm not sure Steph would be okay with it or not. I have no idea. But it would be interesting to see what you say about it, because it has such a strong emotional effect on me.
Mm-hmm.
And sometimes I wonder, is it because of tapping into something I don't get to see too often? You know, you don't get to see love between two men as the norm in cinema. So is that tapping into something and releasing something in me that makes me relieved that I'm seeing myself on screen? I don't know. I just think it's has a slower pace than most shows like that, and like you would expect with this type of show. But that's something I liked about it. They take their time in the conversations that they have, which is unusual, which was a big criticism of it back in 2015, I think it premiered. But it would be interesting to see what you had to say about it, because
I'm interested to see what the level, what the level of on-screen sex there is, because is it comparing it to Sex and the City, which I've never seen an episode of Sex and the City, so I don't really know, but I do know that like HBO is kind of known, especially in like the 90s specifically, for like, we are a cable channel, we can play whatever we want, like we're a premium cable channel, we can play whatever we want, and so people kind of spent the money on that to get that content. They're like, I'm not getting my money's worth unless they have shows on here that have things that, you know, USA Network doesn't have or TBS doesn't have on cable. So they kind of leaned into that. Whereas nowadays, there's movies and other streaming services. It's unfettered now. There's no kind of like gate to hold nudity or any of that stuff out. So you could just flip on any streaming service and have that. But I think because that whole playing field has been leveled, or whatever you want to call it, because it's not salacious anymore, less content is being made that is more sexually explicit. So maybe in 2015, it pokes itself out by being like, oh, this is different because it may be as sexually explicit as something in the mid 90s was, but not as sexually explicit as things in 2015 were. Because when you look at movies from the 70s and the 80s, I mean, that was par for the course. You had to have a sex scene. The woman had to have her top off. I mean, like, you got to go down the line and check all the boxes for an R-rated movie. Like, if you're going to say a bunch of cuss words, you might as well have a sex scene with some nudity, because you're already getting an R rating. So nowadays, it doesn't seem like we don't see very many sex scenes, period, in movies. And I don't know. I don't know why. Maybe people just are less and less interested in it because sex is less. It's so readily available with the internet that you don't have to seek it out in a movie. So, which is kind of, it's kind of taken. I don't know. I mean, people don't go to the movies to see sex scenes, I guess, because
and also
they can get that other
nowadays.
Places.
The sex scene serves the story, serves
Which
the
it
narrative.
Should have always done that.
Absolutely,
but,
absolutely.
Yeah.
Hey, have you seen the Diane Lane movie called Unfaithful, where she was nominated for the Oscar?
No, but I've heard about it. Yeah.
Right. She's fantastic in it. She deserved the Oscar nomination, and people actually thought she should have or could have won. Anyway, there is a very graphic sex scene in that movie that happens to happen outside the guy's front door in the hallway. And it's believable. Like, I believed what I was seeing. And every time I think of that scene, I think to myself, if that was two men, would we be as okay with it? Now, nowadays might be completely different. But I also feel like if there was a scene like that in a movie with two men, would I have to say, hey, it's got this scene in it, be careful? Like, and why am I saying that? You know, like, is that for my purpose? Is that for somebody else's moral compass purposes? I don't know. But the show is beautiful. It's well acted. Jonathan Groff he's just so charming. And it just seems realistic to me. So that would be something.
Okay.
So before we get too close to the end of this, I do want to say a few things. Like I've mentioned the National Theater a couple of times. I saw Streetcar Named Desire with Vanessa Kirby.
Oh.
Gillian Anderson.
Speaking of Vanessa Kirby, speaking of Mission Impossible, she was in Fallout.
Right. She's beautiful in that. Remember, we started talking about her back then going, who is that? But apparently she's been around for a little while. And she was just nominated for the Oscar. And Ben Foster playing Stanley. Stella, that guy.
Really?
And I was like, what is happening here? I got to see it. Well, there's a shot of Gillian Anderson in a green light or a red light, a photo, a thumbnail. And I was like, oh, what is that? And then I saw a picture of a guy in a green light in a bathtub. And I was like, who is that? Streetcar Named Desire. Is that the same thing? I was like, wait, who is this in this? And I was like, who is playing Stanley? Ben Foster. I was like, oh, no. I was like, I'm in. And the craziest thing happens in that production. The stage is in the round, and it's the stage, the set is 3-dimensional. So they actually have the frames of the walls and the bathtub and the curtain. And I was like, how are they going to, that's terrible. Like, who's going to sit behind that bathtub curtain? Like, what? Now, the curtain's pushed all the way to the side, but I know for a fact that that tub is going to be used because I know this play. At least it's probably going to be used. So I was like, when they move that curtain, what are they going to do? And the moment that Blanche takes the stage, and she was brilliant, Gillian Anderson. Like, I kept watching it going, this is why you have every accolade except for the Oscar. Keep going because you're going to be in line because she's amazing in this. Well, as soon as she takes her first drink, the stage starts to slowly rotate. So the stage rotates 360 degrees throughout the whole entire play. Yes. Slow enough where it doesn't make you uneasy and give you vertigo, but nice enough pace to where if you're behind something, you soon won't be, or something's in front of you soon won't be. And here's why Gillian Anderson and Vanessa Kirby was something else, and so was Ben Foster. But there's something about her in this. There's a scene where Stella, the sister, younger sister, and Blanche, the older sister, go out because the Stanley and his buddies are having a poker game, and they come back. And the reason why they're intoxicated is because they had to stay out so long. So they went to a movie or whatever, went to a show, and then they had to go to a bar and drink, of course, because then what else are they going to do? So they come back and they are really intoxicated. And this is how great Gillian Anderson was. She allowed the spinning stage to be an obstacle. So she tried to step up on it, and she's like, whoa. And then she stepped back, and then she tried to step up on it. And then she tried to grab the one angle of the one wall, and she's like, oh, I can't do it. And then she stepped up again, and then she stumbled, and then she got up on it. And I was like, she just let us know how drunk she was by something that exists only because they created that. Like, that was not a choice from the production in the script, whatever. She created that. So I was blown away by it. So a couple of real quick things. So Angels in America, which I mentioned. And then also I saw a production of Mosquitoes, which is a new play that Olivia Colman was in. Olivia Colman live.
Wow.
Acting in the round with Olivia Williams, who played the nurse in The Father.
Both in The Father,
yeah, right. And the play is very it's very layered, almost to a fault, in my opinion. Like, it's a lot to take in. It's about family, it's about children, it's about vaccinations, it's about all of these things. She's a scientist, the Olivia Williams character, working on that collider that is going to put the
Hadron
two atoms
collider.
together.
Yeah.
Yes, thank you.
Large Hadron Collider.
Yes. And I knew you'd know that. And it's about science, and it's about the universe, and it's about adolescence, and it's about pre-sex, post-sex. I mean, it's about everything. But to watch Olivia Colman be able to do what she does on film, on stage. And then I told you about this. She did an interview with the director of the play, and she talked about how scared she is to do live theater. And now that she's become recognized, she feels like she really can't do it anymore because not that she's scared that people recognize her, but she doesn't want to let them down, that she's going to disappoint them. Oh, she thinks she's all that. She's got an Oscar now. Look at her on stage. She sucks. And it's adding to her nerve level and her anxiety level to the point where she doesn't know if she'll ever do live theater again. And that uh, just it was encouraging to me to know that somebody's at the status that she's at and can do the things that she can do, who still is that nervous. Even before she won the Oscar, she did this play. This was 2017. So right after that, she won the Oscar. Like almost right after that, she won the Oscar. The fact that somebody who's been doing it for 40 plus years has all the accolades you could possibly have and still is as nervous as she is before she takes the stage was mind-bending to me. And for some reason, it's soothing to me in the most comforting kind of way. But it is. If you ever get a streaming service of the National Theater, it's interesting to watch. I saw a production of Amadeus. I saw a production of All My Sons. And wow. I am a little bit obsessed right now with Shakespeare. I was going to sleep one night and I thought to myself, well, I didn't go to grad school. I don't really know Shakespeare. I've barely ever done any Shakespeare. I don't really know much about it. I didn't have the chance to learn it after college. We only kind of studied about it. How come I don't have a language for Shakespeare like everybody else does? And then I was like, shut up. Go and watch a damn Shakespeare play and read the script while you're watching it. So I've decided every 2 to 3 weeks, I'm going to pick a Shakespeare play. Some I know, some I don't know, and I'm going to watch as many productions as I can find and read the script either with it or separate, because Shakespeare is not easy to read. And I started with Romeo and Juliet because the National Theater did a production with Jessie Buckley and Josh O'Connor. Josh O'Connor is the guy who played Prince Charles in the second season of The Crown.
Okay.
And man, she is as beautiful and she is exactly what you think she's going to be. And he's great too. They took a 2-hour play, made it an hour and a half. They gutted it, which was interesting. It's more about just the interactions between Romeo and Juliet. And it was fascinating to watch. And the language is really easy to understand. Then I watched the Leonardo DiCaprio, Claire Danes version, which I wasn't a huge fan of, and then I watched the 1960 version, the Franco Zeffirelli, right? And I read along with that one. Man, they twisted that around. That they keep saying William Shakespeare's Romeo and Juliet. I don't know. The one that comes the closest is the Baz Luhrmann one with it does. Yeah. It almost is. I mean, there are things that are moved around and but there are speeches that are fully left intact. And man, Leo and Claire did a good job. They make it make sense. And Baz Luhrmann's direction is very kinetic, and a little on the nose. And he does a little bit of spoon feeding where you're supposed to see something. So he does the action. So you understand the prose or the.
Do you bite your thumb at me?
Yeah. Right. I love that. I love that. I love it. I love it. That guy's crazy great in that. They're all Jamie great. Kennedy. Yeah, I know. He's so funny in that opening sequence. So it's been fascinating to actually watch and hear. And then I picked up the script from the library, Romeo and Juliet, and it actually made it easier to read after I've been exposing myself to it. So that was my goal. And so Hamlet's going to be next. And then I'm going to do something I don't know at all. Something like Anthony and Cleopatra, or something that The Tempest. I barely know that. So I'm going to try a play. But if you remember, Kenneth Branagh did a full version of Hamlet.
He did. Yeah. You all the stuff that you're talking about, this really was right in my wheelhouse, because my freshman year in high school, we did Romeo and Juliet. That year that Claire Danes, Leonardo DiCaprio movie came out. It was right on time. We had just spent 2 months going through Romeo and Juliet, and then the movie comes out. And then the next year we did Hamlet, and then Hamlet came out that next year. In
with Mel Gibson,
6 or whatever,
or the Kenneth Branagh.
The Kenneth Branagh one. Yeah, the Mel Gibson one was 89 or 90 or something like that. But yeah, the Kenneth Branagh one, which was full. I mean, because the Mel Gibson one was all kind of condensed, I think. But
they cut the opening ghost scene. What? That's my favorite scene in the play. They cut it.
But yeah, I mean, you've got Jack Lemmon at the beginning of the Kenneth Branagh one. I mean, come on,
crazy.
So that's what? Well, no. Who's Ophelia? Is it Kate Winslet? Yes, you're right.
Yeah.
But anyway, so yeah, I mean, that came out right at the time we were reading Hamlet and going through it and all that stuff. So yeah, I mean, those two plays, I mean, I don't know much about Shakespeare, but those two plays I definitely have a little bit more of a relationship with because of the proximity of learning it in school and seeing it on the big screen. So yeah, that's cool. That's neat.
I'm fascinated by the fact that there is always an interpretation. It's never the full text. And then I happened to, and I was like, why can't I find a full text version of Romeo and Juliet? They cut the first scene always. And so I need to hear that scene being acted. Well, I didn't find a full text, but I did find a college or high school. I'm not sure what. It looked more like a college production. I don't even know where it was from. And that was pretty much the full text. But what was interesting about that is how they got their lines wrong. And I was like, I mean, to the point where it's like completely, there's the star-crossed lover speech in the beginning. Somebody reversed 2 words. Now it's live theater. It's going to happen. But I was shocked by it. I was like, okay, people are human. I get it. So that makes me fallible and I'm cool with that. But I was actually shocked. But it was interesting to actually try to read along with people acting it. Fascinating.
That's cool. All right. Well, got anything else?
I finally watched Loki and finished The Falcon and Winter Soldier. Loki was amazing.
So you watched Loki and you finished Falcon and Winter Soldier. That's all you have to say.
Yes. Loki was amazing.
Yeah.
Loki is clever. You get in, you get out. Clever.
Yeah.
And be careful what you wish for. Yeah, he is very good in it.
Yeah.
Very good in it. You know, be careful what you wish for. Be careful the choices you make. In, out.
Yeah. That's good. All right. Well, you can check us out on the web at actorengineer.com. You can go to facebook.com/actorandengineer. You can tweet us at actorengineer, and you can check us out on YouTube. Just search for the Actor and the Engineer podcast. And we'll see you next time.